is a very robust academic exercise to do, and in this matter, all concerned parties, whether it's government to government, academic to academic, traders to trader, commerce and chambers and of commerce and trade, even transport association, they have reason to come together, understand each other's strength and weaknesses. You don't have to prop up their weaknesses, but you have certainly to draw upon each other's strength and all. So anything that you venture to take up on behalf of India and Pakistan has its own cup of challenges, number of issues which need to be looked into, diagnosed, the problems which emanate when you start taking a step in any direction, and then many explorations, many things which you have already tried, many things for which you have reached halfway through, etc., etc. At the end of the day, and I'm sure at the end of today and tomorrow's conference also, you will come to this conclusion that there is vast untapped potentials. There is vast untapped possibilities for the two countries to come. So again, I would say you will find my friends from Pakistan will say, yes, सितारों के आगे जहाँ और भी हैं, अभी इश्क के इम्तहान और भी हैं. You may have entered into a few areas of trade, a few commodity agreements, a few, you see, understanding emanating out of the regular annual exercise that you do, sometime at the level of commerce secretaries, sometime at the level of ministers themselves. Agreements signed, as many as 3 agreements in 2012, that we will facilitate this, that, but it's an ongoing process. So go on exploring, go on then. I have special appreciation for ICRIAR. They have undertaken not only this project, but also a almost unbroken exercise of understanding each other through various mechanisms. Some of the studies they have undertaken, they are really very, very important in throwing more light, more insights about what is happening on the other side, etc., etc. In my view, as a student of economics, when you talk of trade, improvement of trade relationship, I personally think on a broad scale, trade negotiation, trade talks, they enlighten us, they facilitate the production process on each side, and they facilitate consumption pattern, consumption requirements of people on two sides. On the production side, trade negotiations, trade talks, they talk about the requirements of raw material of one country against the possibility of this being met by the other country, whether it's raw material or semi-finished products, machinery, and other allied products, chemicals, and most importantly, I will believe in today's age and time, exchange of know-how, or even one-way flow of know-how in certain areas, the other way flow in the other area. Facilitation of production process, lending it a degree of international competitive through mutual cooperation is the need of the hours. I cannot claim as an Indian that the technological know-how that we have inherited, that we have mastered so far, is the answer for everything which exists today, or the challenges, trade challenges, international trade challenges, that they are sufficient answers for that. And if technology, it comes out of a certain knowledge box, creation of knowledge box cannot be taken to be the exclusive preserve of scientists, educationists of India and not of Pakistan. I know. I have dealt with dozens and dozens of intellectuals in Pakistan in my personal capacity, even otherwise also. I know that some of the best minds are available in Pakistan. It's a slightly different matter, and the answer for that possibly can need not be located in this seminar, but we can certainly ask, why don't the top intellectuals of Pakistan, who is internationally recognized by any yardstick, they don't stay back in Pakistan? I'm not saying that many Indians are staying back and more up, but this problem is more manifest with Pakistan. One of my very close friends, he confided with me, and I'm confiding with you, but it's not to be disclosed past and further, that every such high-level intellectual in Pakistan must like to stay and work in a place like Washington, in a place like that. And if possible, he must have a second house also in Washington. And God forbid, if possible, he must have a second wife also over there. How many of these things are true or not? I am nobody to vouchsafe that, but these are some. Essentially, it means that the remarkable human capabilities are available over there, they are available here. Why can't we galvanize, put them together? And this was primarily the idea which was put into operation when the idea of establishing a university like South Asian University was mooted by Indian Prime Minister way back in 2005 or 6. I will briefly touch upon this because I have not come here to sell my university. I have come here to talk about. On the other side, the trade relations which are under discussion, they are meant to improve, they are meant to facilitate the consumption habits of the people. In the matter of consumption, I'm a little excited to say that most of the consumption habits in Pakistan, particularly in Punjab and a little bit of some other states, they are almost identical or very close to what is the consumption basket of people, at least in North India and a few other things. I need not mention to you some of the items, individual items which enter into my consumption basket. I'm sure when I go to Lahore, when I go to Rawalpindi, I will discover the same item, even cooked the same way, even eaten the same way. I don't know how many of my friends from Pakistan would be able to explain to you a simple concept. It's called kurodi. Anybody can tell me what is the meaning of the word kurodi? When you cook rice in a pot, there is some hard stuff deposited at the bottom of the. I think at least there is one bold nodding from that side. That is called kurodi. You believe me or not, you go to typical Punjab villages in India, typical Punjabi families or even some other families in Pakistan, they would jump upon the possibility of getting a little bit of kurodi. I was a personal guest of Vice Chancellor of Punjab University, Lahore. His wife unconsciously said that, "Ji, thodi ji kurodi bach gayi hai, tusi khaoge?" When I heard the word kurodi, I said, "Bhen ji, ek kurodi hun jitne din assi hage hain, saadi malkiyat hai tuadi kurodi hai, tusi chhod de." I can go on mentioning many other items, etc., but it clearly shows that there are similarities. That means our production process has to gear in that direction, and we have to see that our production processes are these things, they get geared to. One more thing that I want to share more by way of my own personal assessment is that trade facilitation is always carried out through government initiatives to be followed by the concerned agencies, and there is a long story about that. What fell apart, what could be gone through more rigorously between India and Pakistan, etc. But the most important thing, I don't know whether this seminar will pay attention to that, how much of awareness about respective government policies is operating in Pakistan, is operating in India about the policies. I'm sure Pakistan has to do a lot of catching up on that. Pakistanis, more of Pakistanis are unaware of what kind of policy initiatives are put upfront here, what kind of facilities are available there. That is one good step. Unless you are aware of what is already available, how can you build your, your structure of facilitation, condition, etc., etc., etc. Now, I think I like to say, perhaps very vociferously, that the trade between India and Pakistan can be looked in its own right, as we are trying to do. But I would, as an objective analyst of the area, would like to look into it in the broader South Asian context. I have circulated a few tables. Please look at table 1. You will clearly find that there is some kind of a problem, malice, about how the 8 countries within the SAARC region are patterning their trade. You will clearly find that intra-region trade is very, very marginal. Go into country by country. Actually, the trade world over can be put from the point of view of any individual country, can be put, or from the point of view of a region, can be put into 3 categories. 1, that part of merchandise exports or imports can be put in terms of what goes within the region. The second part is what part of the trade, merchandise, export, goes within the developing world, outside the region. And the third one, how much of these things they go over to high income countries. This table clearly shows country by country, except for Afghanistan and Nepal, perhaps out of some degree of helplessness, perhaps because of the structure of their own economy, structure of their own production, etc., etc. All other countries, they have very little proportion of exports and imports staying back within the region. For example, in South Asia as a whole, it is only about 5 to 6% which is there. Figures are certainly subject to challenge because everything depends upon how you calculate them. Similarly, if you look into the pattern of imports, you will clearly find it's about 4% of that thing. You can look through Pakistan position, India's position, you will find about the same thing. Now, why this has happened? Why this is so that a very, very small proportion of their exports and imports stay back in the region, etc., etc. One can analyze this fact in many different ways, but one of the things that I want to remind this gathering is that trade statistics are, as per international convention, can be split into 5 levels in terms of what we call technology intensity of exports or imports. 5 levels. Bottom level of technology intensity is where almost agricultural products, a little bit of finishing done, value adding put onto that. This is called level 1 technology intensity. The highest is 5th, in which you have the most sophisticated component of technology, etc. Please go back to your countries, look into the composition of your exports in terms of technology intensity levels. So is the case of India. India, Pakistan, for that matter, any other country are far behind in terms of the composition of the exports which go. China, for example, on the other hand, Malaysia, for example, they have risen very high on the technology ladder as far as you can export bulk, but the net proceeds will still be very, very low. It is in this direction that you have to start thinking about how can we push up the technology intensity of our exports, whether Pakistan to India, India to Pakistan, or to the rest of the world is also a very, very moot question. I will I will not pursue this argument any further, but there are two other tables. If you look into that, it will also show some further lessons. Particularly, I like to draw your attention to table 3. Now, you will see that the trade between India and Pakistan is characterized by many other features which you are more aware of than I can be. But two things which clearly stand out. Now, this is a history, brief history of trade from 2078, and I borrowed it from one of the brief, brief of the Ministry of Commerce, following out of one of the meeting between commerce ministers of the two countries. Now, what do you find? You find that apart from many other things which are hidden somewhere, one fact which clearly is manifest is that India-Pakistan trade is anything but stable. You can find that one year it is up by a big margin, other year it is down by a sizable margin. I don't think trade relations grow, and they grow steadily, and they grow with the prospect of accelerating them to higher levels of what we call asymptotic growth, etc., is not available here, both from exports as well as imports. Second thing, the gap between Pakistan and India's in terms of surpluses is also very, very big challenge. India's exports far overweigh imports from Pakistan, and therefore trade surpluses, etc., is another area that needs to be gone into. Therefore, it's a challenge to you, to academic world, and to us, everybody, in more ways than one. I think I am